Concerts, tours, and music festivals around the world have been called off over fears of spreading the coronavirus.
With venues shut down across the country, musicians at all levels have been out of work.
New study shows that even when social distancing measures are lifted, those crowds may never return.
On March 11th, 2020, the world stopped. Venues across the world closed their doors, and for many, will never reopen. The live experience is in our DNA, but what happens when we are forced to think off of the stage?
어서 와. 방방코는 처음이지?
Guide us with your grace. Santo que ci salve.
Live streaming has become more than a pastime, a simple deluge of production. It is a pivotal era in the music industry, rooting itself into another dimension of the live experience. The pandemic did not introduce live streaming to the industry, but it plucked a note and let it ring out.
When the New York lockdown was starting. So for us, it was a matter of, canceling the rest of the tour, canceling our flights and our travel and getting back to LA as quickly as possible, because at that point, nobody knew, how severe that lockdown in New York was going to be. So that was really the first, I would say, point for a lot of us in the music business where we had folks on tour or doing things that were in person or traveling, that we all had to sort of bring everybody home or send ourselves home.
It was kind of weird at first because everybody kind of thought we'll go back to work pretty soon. This will go, on the wayside a little bit. But as it went further and further, producers and A&R people started being more open to doing Zoom meetings. Everybody started doing Zoom meetings. I manage some awesome artists. One artist is Western Boy, so I manage a girl named Haley McLean. All the gigs kind of started drying up and canceling and stuff. We thought, what are we going to do to keep them in people's face? So they started way back last April, I think. They started Western Boy Wednesdays on Facebook Live. Artist development and songwriter development we've been doing on Zoom as well. And that's going fine. I mean, if you want to be better at your craft, you figure out how to get it done.
For 8 years, I worked at a large talent management company representing people like Britney Spears, Miley Cyrus, Aerosmith, Fifth Harmony, and a bunch of others. Subsequently left to start my own independent management company where I manage a variety of acts now. Working with Drew Mack, we're wrapping up his second EP now. I'm working with another up-and-coming artist called Gia Woods, who signed over at Sony. I think we've realized that not just anybody can go do a live show and have it be worthwhile. You do actually have to have some number of people that are willing to come spend some time with you. So I think it'll I think it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Gia did a performance on Twitch live that went really well. I mean, it had 300,000 viewers at its peak, which is more than she could have ever gotten at any, you know, like she couldn't sell anywhere near that many tickets.
I co-founded the organization Big Heavy World in 1996. Eventually, we ended up where we are now with an archive of about 5,000 recordings, a licensed radio station, a tiny museum, workshop and event series for artists in the state to help them through COVID or with careers in general. We partner a lot with other organizations, and we are what Vermont has for what other states would call a music development office. We also experimented really hard with different streaming platforms. The way different platforms that let you stream also have rules about streaming and the kind of music you play. And so we didn't just have to navigate how do you get a good quality musical sound out on a stream. We had to navigate, well, how do you get it out at all, you know, legally.
We did find a platform later on that worked better called Mixcloud, because Mixcloud went out and got streaming licenses. And it seems built for music. Facebook Live and YouTube Live weren't really built with music in mind. Twitch certainly wasn't. That's all very gaming related. And all three of those had such a automated copyright system. And that's the other piece of it, is when things happen, there's nobody you can go to for support at these companies, really. You can read their help documents, but it's not like you can get somebody on the phone and say, hey, I keep having this problem, what do I do? There's nobody there.
Streaming isn't something you can just go do, it seems. It's something you have to go put a whole lot of unfounded trust in faceless corporations, and it doesn't work out 100%. I've seen it not work out.
In the beginning, some of our glitches were self-inflicted, just us trying to get good sound, you know, because this is a music, it's not just someone talking, so the quality of the sound is important, and trying to get that mix right was just something we weren't experienced with. But then we would run into challenges with the platforms themselves, which weren't really made for music. They'd overcompress things, for example. It's fine for voice, but then the music would sound kind of squashed and you get dropout. A lot of them seem to prioritize better video over better sound, even though video takes up so much more bandwidth. But if you have songs doing that, it's just not an enjoyable experience.
We've noticed how much broadband there is not in Vermont. You know, we've had artists, really talented artists with people who want to watch them struggle with their internet connections. It's just been really hard for them to find the balance between the bandwidth they have and the platform that doesn't need too much bandwidth.
Everybody does these live streams, right? It's important to stay creative. You're just not only creative in your songs and everything, you got to be creative in your presentation.
For everything in my life that's going wrong. Oh.
I started Higher Ground in 1998. I've got 3 venues in Portland, Maine. I do a festival in Western Massachusetts. I've got a festival in Mexico. I've got a festival in Michigan. So a lot of our work is actually outside of the state. So if you do something that's sort of like almost a publicity stunt and you live stream it, I think you'll get interest. But just live streaming for the sake of live streaming, I think it's gonna wane very, very quickly.
I think they've realized that they can just sort of pivot to a bunch of like high-end expensive, mostly expensive performances and that they can like go on that way and be pretty okay. So I think that those will probably stay as they are for a while. Even if you have new things all the time, it's not anything negative about those fans that are tuning in every week, because those are the super fans who we want, you know, we're so grateful for, and we want to be so, you know, generous to, or whatever word you want to use. But, you know, when you do have alternate ideas for things, it's natural for artists to want a wider and wider audience. Like 10, 20, 50 people that you recognize, it makes it tough to be putting your best shit out there.
We got helped by a couple of state and federal programs. There's the PPP program at the beginning. So we've kept all of our staff on. Vermont had some grant funding that was available for businesses that were hardest hit, which, you know, ours was. Part of what's going on in the music business is first to close, last to reopen. So by the time we reopen in September, October, I mean, we will have effectively been closed without revenue for 18 months. Unlike some other businesses, I mean, we really don't have any other revenue coming in. In fact, like, we're doing things like this live streaming program. That's not behind a paywall. I mean, we're making that free because, frankly, we don't think anyone will pay for it. It's one of these things where we basically just do it as a pass through, and it's a way to just kind of stay busy until we can turn things back on again.
Angry crowd without stepping on some toes. Scream your name till
the concert experience just doesn't translate the same way as being there. So, and I don't think it ever will, which is great for us and great for bands, because again, they make most of their money out on the road touring. But like, people want to be together, right? It's baked into the DNA of human beings to congregate, hang out, socialize, celebrate, protest, you know, and that only happens, you know, together. It's just, and it's been going on, you know, since the dawn of man. Live streaming is in sort of an existential crisis of understanding what it wants to be and who's going to accept it. Because as soon as we can move back to doing stuff live, that's always going to be everyone's first choice, right? So live streaming is doing okay right now because it's the only option. It's the only thing people have. But as soon as there's a better option, meaning doing something live and in person, live streaming's capacity is going to diminish greatly.
If you sort of fish around for the silver lining, I think a lot of artists have likely picked up engineering skills. I think that those skills that they built for streaming, you know, they're not going to be set down and lost after the pandemic. Their toolkit will be bigger. The streaming industry is so uncrystallized, you know, it's all still getting better and better. So it was kind of like wading in a swamp, and but we did it all right.
I don't see virtual concerts going all the way away once we can do in-person concerts. So I think it is a little bit of a balancing act. I think we're getting closer though.
I hope you guys are doing well back at home. I hope that this concert is maybe helping you guys maybe feel a little bit better. And one way that I know research supports that makes you feel better is when you sing in groups. Now, this research might have been done when this group of people were together in a choir, but they found that when people sang together, that it actually caused the release of endorphins.
So, I am a musician myself, and I hosted one virtual concert, and it was actually in a concert by one of my favorite musicians, Dan Mangan, that I really felt this connection to him, even though, you know, I wasn't in the same space. I was watching it afterwards, and I also read some of the comments, and they were saying that they felt connected as well to the performer and also to the other audience members that were all of a sudden forced into this really hard situation where we were being socially isolated. And so that got me thinking, what elements of this concert, as compared to some of the other concerts I'd seen, brought me to feel that way.
I'm a really huge fan of Justin Bieber. He's my life, my everything. Cody Simpson, Dan and Shay, and Justin Bieber, my mains. Saw Justin on New Year's Eve on a live stream concert. Like in between songs, he would like talk. And there was one time where he was like dying for water and he's like, "Can I get some water? I'm so thirsty." And I just thought it was so cute.
I'm a fan of several celebrities, mainly One Direction, Harry Styles, Ariana Grande. I've got Cody Simpson and Niall like right there. I would say my favorite was probably from the Liam Payne show that he had, because he sang What a Feeling from One Direction, and like that's never been sang live by any of them as far as I know. So it was just kind of cool to see him do that and then talk about how he thought it should have been performed live altogether and all that. And it's just kind of cool to see him do a song that he was technically in but hadn't actually performed on his own.
When the air ran out and we both started running wild.
I liked it because, you still get to see like the songs and he's still performing. He still like has like comments pop up, so he'll still respond to some people, which is cool. It's not as fun as being in an actual concert, obviously, because I literally just watched it while I was at work. So I'm just like carrying my phone around with me and just like listening to him sing while I'm sweeping floors and stuff. So it's nice in the sense that you can do it without having to take off of work and like I was getting paid to watch it. But it's also like not quite as fun and engaging, so.
Rude? Oh, I thought you meant the song Rude. You're calling me rude because I'm not singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle.
There's this person I like in Why Don't We, and he'll like just get on and then just sing some random songs every once in a while, do a Q&A kind of thing, stuff like that. I think those are fun because you kind of get an insight more about them. I like the Instagram live ones because it's easier for them to see the comments, I think, that kind of go through. And then, if you do want to guess someone in, it's really easy. You just hit the button and then they're in too. You can ask questions that way. And I think it's just cool too that I can see the comments easier on my end, at least, where like then I could see like my friends type things and I'm like, oh, hey, like it's you.
This is theirs. They made it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking love it. I haven't listened to them.
I did Justin's live stream concert on New Year's Eve. The program they were using was like their first time using that platform, and there were so many people that were coming to the live stream that he had to keep postponing it because the whole website crashed like multiple times. And by the time like it was supposed to be over, by the time that it was New Year's Eve, like with the time the ball dropped, and it didn't end up happening. Like the ball dropped like right in the middle of his performance, and it just like it was super frustrating because I was like on Twitter, like, what's going on? No one knows what's happening. And they didn't like refund any money or anything. No one knew when it was coming back up. And it was just like frustrating.
Daniela, Pretty Savage Blink, Audrey. Not you guys being live at 12:30.
Sometimes I'll be watching them and like they'll go live at like midnight or whatever, and I'll get on, and then sometimes my Wi-Fi just kind of glitches and it just freezes, and then I get annoyed, so I have to get off. I think if it happens either on my end or their end more than like twice, I usually just kind of get off and I don't try anymore, and I'm just like, we're just gonna call it a day because it's not working.
But we're finding that actually the audio quality does seem to be important for facilitating at least the social connection to the artist. And so that's an important consideration, not only for performers, but also if audience members want to feel more connected to the artist, they can, I guess, invest in a better set of headphones or speakers. I looked at the predictors for when people would donate to charities and performers. When looking at what led people to donate to performers, we found that when performers requested donations for themselves, that was important for that behavior. Age was a predictor, where older people were more likely to donate. But loneliness was also trending as a predictor against donation behavior. So the more lonely people were, the less likely they were to actually donate. And also the usual frequency of concerts that participant would go to, possibly because, these people are already budgeting for that as an entertainment cost. They're used to paying for tickets. That was a predictor for whether they were willing to purchase tickets.
A lot. Probably been to his concert like twice. Over $500 at least. Probably like in between like $700 and $1,000 on Justin Bieber. And like I probably spent more than $1,000 on Cody Simpson. And then when I was spending money on Cody Simpson, it was more for my friends because I would go and I would travel to go to concerts, and then I would see my friends at the concert.
On everything, oh, that's gonna be a big number. So I know I've been to at least 8 Cody concerts. I think at each one I probably spent about $200 at least. Then I know when I went to see One Direction, my ticket was $550. So I would say probably like $5,000.
I think my max would be $50 for a live stream. I paid $25 for Justin. If it were possible to go to an actual in-person concert, my top that I'm willing to spend on a live stream concert would go like way down. Like I probably wouldn't spend more than $20 if going to like an actual in-person concert was an option.
I'm also involved in another project called Live Stream Experiments. We did look at Zoom and YouTube, and we found that Zoom caused greater social presence than YouTube. There, it wasn't that the platform necessarily promoted greater connection, but actually that its presence, the feelings of presence that will predict whether you feel social connection. And with this social presence, the thing is people were watching the Zoom concert, but also they could see the participants or other participants' faces along the top bar. And that actually promoted a greater connection to the audience, but not greater connection to the artist.
In the beginning of quarantine, me and my friends would like watch the Instagram live, but would also be on Zoom at the same time. So if like, I was always watching Cody Simpson. So if Cody Simpson would say something funny, I would like put my phone down and I would turn my camera back on the Zoom, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you hear what he just said? And like we would always just like make jokes to each other in the comments, and it was like almost more about me and my friends just being funny with each other than it was like watching Cody Simpson talk about whatever he's talking about.
But I think it's just cool that you can find people that have very similar interests in music with you, and even if they don't live near you, you can still talk to them, and like we've Zoomed and FaceTimed, and like they can become some of like your best friends. Like if I go to a concert, it's probably gonna be within 3 to 4 hours of where I live, and people otherwise live like 18 hours away. So it's cool that you can still interact with people that you have similar interests with.
In this same experiment series, we actually tried to manipulate different variables. One of those things was we provided one group of participants with just a regular YouTube stream. One group received the YouTube 360 link, so that was allowing them to click in a 2-dimensional screen through where they wanted to look using a 360 camera. And a third group received virtual reality headsets. We compared whether this resulted in differences in their feelings of physical and social presence. I believe we found that the VR glasses, resulted in greater physical presence, so greater feelings of being there in the space than the 360-degree view or the regular YouTube. But when we conducted a modeling analysis, we found that it wasn't necessarily the VR headsets that resulted in more or less social connection to the artist. It's actually that greater physical presence in general actually promotes greater social connection to both the artist and the other audience members. We also measured the salience of the coronavirus during the concert. For example, did the artist or other audience members discuss the coronavirus in the concert? And we found that this actually predicted how socially connected people felt, as well as the amount of this emotion called kamamutta. So we found that the salience of the coronavirus predicted social connection, and that social connection actually mediated the effect on kamamutta. And this is in line with the existing theory on kamamutta, because it's thought that it's emotion that often is characterized by like tears coming to your eyes, or a warm feeling in the center of your chest, or feeling welcomed, that this is actually caused by a sudden intensification of togetherness. What I am able to ask is what aspects of virtual concerts lead to more or less social connection. So one thing we found was, as you might expect, watching a live virtual concert led to greater social connection among audience members and towards the artist than pre-recorded concerts.
If I can see him on screen like I saw him in a live stream concert, it felt like I was at a concert seeing it for the first time, and it's not like I was just watching a movie or like a music video or something. Like everything was happening in real time, so it felt like I was really there. Going to a concert has so much like different energy. Like it's not just looking at Justin Bieber like on a screen, because I know like when I go to concerts I usually get like the worst seats, and so it's mostly just on the screen anyway that I'm seeing him. But when I'm at home, I'm just at home. This isn't like my regular spot. Like there's nothing different except for me. Like I could watch a YouTube video and kind of get the same thing, but like it's not the same as a YouTube video because it's happening in real time, but like it's not actually a concert. Like it's just a video on a screen.
Performers interact with the audience. This was correlated with social connection.
Kaylee asked, what is a chesty? That's pretty much an Australian slang for tank top or singlet.
Cody Simpson used to go on live a lot. There was one time where he was in a live, but like no one in those watching the live spoke any English because it was like a Brazilian live stream. So I was in the comments, I'm like, put up 6 fingers if you love me, and my friends were called the Zoom crew. I'm like, put up 6 fingers if you love the Zoom crew, and he put up 6 fingers, and I just think about that all the time sometimes.
There will still be changes to the music industry because of this, but it also has created new realms of the music industry. And so I know a lot of people who are, trying to enhance the virtual concert experience using virtual reality or different methods for getting people engaged. And I think that can also inform live concerts as well, because at a live concert, like, how do you really interact with the performer? It's just you're able to shout and they can hear you if you do it when it's kind of quiet. That it's important to realize, though, that the research that's being done right now is in the context of the pandemic. And so anything we find out right now might not apply in audiences after, in a post-pandemic world, whatever that looks like.
When the pandemic hit, we were really left with no other option. So the first live stream I did was on the day the album came in. Obviously it got canceled. So I just was like promoted it a couple days before. And at that moment in the pandemic, everybody was like really excited to just have any sort of human contact. It was really successful. And I honestly thought to myself, like after we did it, I was like, I don't know why I ever left the house.
In 2018, a friend of ours was getting really, really popular on Twitch, recommended that we stream on Twitch. We started streaming gaming, and then that was not going well because we are not gamers. And then we started playing music on the hour. After the pandemic hit, our restaurant closed and like the film industry closed. So Twitch pivoted and became our main source of income.
Once there was a way get back home.
I've been a musician forever, pretty much as long as I've been a person who can work. I also do music for infants and toddlers at a company called Rockababy that I run. Pandemic came and that wasn't going to happen. One of the first streaming situations I came up with was I took that puppet over there, and in this office, I just went Facebook Live to all of our Facebook fans. I just popped up and was like, hey, it's me, your friend Harmony. Good to see you guys again. It's been so long.
Hi, everybody. It's Harmony coming at ya from the basement of Rockababy offices. So, how are you? What's happening?
They just loved it. They loved connecting with a character that their 2-year-olds hadn't seen, in a while. So when I took the puppet out and started doing that and started seeing all the little hearts start popping up on the screen and That was just the most awesome moment of my live streaming like startup.
Oh, let's kick it off with a Rock-a-Baby song. Rock-a-baby in the treetop. When the wind blows, you're ready to rock with songs from Bach to hip-hop. We'll put on a show, it's not gonna stop. I don't care if you're a boy or a girl. You're gonna learn that it's a musical world. Whoa, hey! Pretty good, right?
It was actually like so surprisingly amazing that I knew I was on something, and I knew that we were going to be doing this for like a good long time.
When everything shut down, I was nervous, financially and otherwise, as to what I was going to do with my life. I've heard about it for the last 2 or 3 years, but especially this year. In the last year or so is when I started doing it. It always felt foreign to me and a little weird and a little disconnected from people. Even though I'm an introvert, I sort of have to build up this sort of persona of Craig Mitchell when I leave my house to go to a gig. My band is used to me like running around like an idiot before a show because I'm so nervous and freaking out and hyperventilating before I go on stage, but I use that energy. I got a phone call from Recovery Vermont first, and they asked me to start playing for their clients who used to go out dancing and go bowling and go to shows to support each other and being sober. And so they hired me to do a weekly dance party for them. And then Vermont Pride Center called, and then VPR called, and Camp Tecumseh. And so I started doing all these parties online and realized, whoa, one, I don't have to deal with people really. As soon as I hit leave meeting, they're done. And I can go home and be by myself. And I don't have to deal with sweaty people touching me. The Recovery Vermont one, which is one that is like the most populated. Looking at all these folks who, this is their time. It's a set time, it's consistent from 7 to 8 p.m. every Friday. It's a party.
The biggest thing is like having a consistent schedule. So that really worked for us when we were forced out of our job, but we've missed 5 streams in the past 3 years that we've been streaming. So people knew, like when we were out of a job, they're like, well, no matter what, CA is gonna be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday at 8 p.m. Pacific. They knew that. And I think that helped, that worked in our favor a lot. And then if we wanted to do any bonus streams or anything, we could obviously do that.
Since Corona started, I've really gotten into doing a lot of like electronic music and a lot of like live synth stuff. That's what really got me into streaming, was like doing that type of music. Occasionally we'll just like, pop like one of our phones on and just like jump on, Instagram or something, just cause. Part of what I like about it is it's just so casual. Like I'm not trying to like promote anything. It's mostly just like, I want to practice getting like live, doing stuff live and doing this thing live. So it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, like get on when it's on.
Before the pandemic, I would be volunteering with Musicians on Call on a monthly basis, and I'd be going into Boston's Children's Hospital, and basically I would go in with my guitarist who would be accompanying me, and then Musicians on Call gives you a guide, and you're basically going from room to room. And so this past year with the pandemic, Musicians on Call has gone 100% virtual. Which on the positive side, they have been able to reach so many more families and patients than ever before. And so nowadays, I'm driving over to my guitarist's house. He has a full setup of like his 2 microphones, a whole mixing board, and we hook that all up to Zoom. Musicians on Call is able to stream us to all different hospitals across the country. So basically now it's a half an hour set of us playing virtually, and it gets broadcast to the hospital TV. So when we are performing, we don't see any patients, or it's just the musicians on call guide that we see, and then just our faces. There are other kind of like hospital staff that are on the call, and so if a patient is listening to us playing on their TV, they are able to call in to that hospital staff member, and they can request songs that way, or be asking us questions or giving us challenges to embarrass ourselves live on the Zoom call.
Hello. Hello. Hi.
I'm the musician in the family. I professionally, like, it's what I do for a living. My wife is just a normal sort of, she does marketing. One night in late March, I just took my Facebook Live out, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna play at the piano and sing and do like Billy Joel, Elton John piano bar stuff. And, you know, maybe my friends will log on and watch, and we'll chat and have a good time. It was a ton of fun. I don't remember how many people logged on, but it was the same kind of thing with my puppet, where I just sat at the piano, had a pretty bad angle, you know, just our piano's in a tight corner of the house, and I just had the camera, like, you know, as far but as close as I could get to get the right angle. And I just had fun, and Stephanie joined and she started singing along.
It's like a professional rehearsal. Like, it's really interesting to like do, and it's cool because you don't feel like the pressure of a show, and you don't like feel nervous about playing a show, because it's just you and like your band in a room playing music. Obviously I love playing a live show with lights and people way better than playing in like just a little room with like a camera. This is a really good opportunity for like artists who can't get out on the road because they can't afford to tour, or they can't get themselves onto a tour. It's a really good opportunity for them to just get themselves out there.
Usually you have a show and then you travel, so you don't necessarily have to change the show. But on a live stream, it's kind of like the same 100, 120 people tune in. You got to keep coming up with a different show, because I can't just play in Pittsburgh one night and then take it to Cleveland the next. It feels super weird, because often there'll be venues that I've played many times to plenty of people, and now you finish the song and then it's just like silence. So that part of it is weird, but as an independent musician, you kind of have to adapt and change all the time. So it's just the set of challenges that this particular year brings.
Let's say I strike the end of a song chord. I don't see the applause for like, I think 30 seconds on Facebook Live. I think there's a big delay, which kind of sucks, because when you're at a bar, you end the song and there's applause. This is a little different, and it's still really fun, but it's not quite the same feedback that you get. You kind of, as a musician, you kind of thrive on that audience feedback, and you do miss out on a big part of that when you go live on Facebook.
Maybe we went a little over the line, but at least
Playing a live show itself will always be the most desirable, especially if you're a solo performer. It's very much about like sharing the song with a room full of people. I do feel like the live streams are a band-aid on the head wound of what COVID has done to the touring industry.
tell me why I never wanna hear you say.
As far as like being monetized, Twitch is the only place that like pretty immediately with like minimal effort you can monetize. And even if you're not able to get a lot of subs or bits and shares and all of that, you can still put up a Cash App link, you can put up a PayPal link, and you can have like very instantaneous stuff. When we first started on Twitch, we had just wanted it to pay for our rent, which in Los Angeles is your kidney every month. If we are running low on rent, we can put that up as a goal, and that goal goes straight into PayPal. So we're able to like literally same day be like, okay, here's $2,000 for rent. Done. Also, a couple weeks ago, my car just went kaput, and it was a $1,500 bill that I had to pay like immediately. And we put it up as the donor goal, and it got funded. So whereas that would be something that I would normally put on a credit card, it was taken care of because of Twitch.
We were born before the wind. Also younger.
My business, between regular old gigs like wedding gigs and stuff, which pay really well, and my Rockababy income just completely decimated. They were gone, and it's been a year, and I have not made any money. So, you know, there was PPP through my business, which was 2 months of my income. And then I just had another round of PPP, which was another 2 months of my income. I was on unemployment for a long while. So when we would do the We'll Do It Live gigs, we set up a, I guess you'd call it a virtual tip jar. I kept bringing it up with Stephanie. I was like, maybe we should ask for money at the next one. And she was like, no, we can't do that. And I was like, oh, don't be so squeamish about it. Like, I'm a musician. They expect me to get paid for gigs. And, you know, they're sitting there watching us for an hour and a half. Maybe we can ask them for $1. Like, no big deal. I just put a little lower third graphic up that said like virtual tips to Venmo at Rockababy or whatever my thing was. If I would get a request for something that was a little off kilter from what we know, I would say something like, oh, that reminds me, guys, if you're making requests, if you're having a good time, please send us a little tip, little donation to Venmo at whatever.
We win fans, and then we lose fans.
We
when
win this.
Suck.
We win Rockababy Venmo tips. That's
we're
what
not
we win.
getting any Venmo
Okay,
tips. No.
tip us for trying something new, or don't, whatever.
And we'd make, you know, some cash kind of sporadically through the year. It was nothing to go crazy about, but it made me feel a little more normal. It made me feel like, oh, I'm getting paid to do musician's work. This is how things should be. We didn't have to worry about money during the pandemic, and I know a lot of people did. So for us, that was another reason why she didn't want to ask for tips. She was like, you don't really need it. But there was this other part of me that was like, I know, but I don't feel like I'm getting appreciated the way I'm used to being appreciated. I think it goes back to that earlier question of, will this stick around? And I think for some people, they'll be glad to see it go, because that means they got real gigs lined up and they can make money again. So
I'm getting dressed in the moonlight now, got my jacket on.
As summer came upon us and more bands were doing live streams, it kind of got saturated and I slowed it down. I didn't want to do it necessarily on a webcam or on my phone anymore, so we would bring in a crew or I would go to a venue. I did that for a couple months where I would team up with venues. I would either travel there or do them remotely from my house, but stream through the venues' platforms, their socials, their Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that kind of thing.
Each platform has their own demographic and has different stuff depending on different people. Some people stream as a hobby and they prefer to have like high numbers, and you can really corner and capitalize certain markets on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Our friends that have done music on all of the platforms have been most successful on Twitch. So for us and for like art purposes, I think Twitch is the best way to go. The other thing that we do that's like a controversial hot take, we do a like 13-minute starting soon countdown. Our mods do a really great job at the top of stream hyping everybody up. So like it is like a show the second we sit down, and like everybody's just like really hyped to see us and like to be hanging out. So that has been really, really incredible for us, just to like start the stream off on like a really high note.
Hey guys, anybody that's new, I'm Ashley. This is Courtney. We're CA, Courtney and Ashley in Los Angeles. We are best friends, filmmakers, and musicians. Thank you all so much for being here.
Our very first thing is we're like, what's up? We're CA, Courtney and Ashley in Los Angeles, best friends, filmmakers, and musicians. Welcome home. Welcome to the Johanna. We always start out the first 2.5 hours doing requests. Ashley and I will throw in some of our songs if we want to, but most of the time the queue gets pretty full. So we close it at the 2.5 hour mark.
On Facebook, there's lots of groups that like are just dedicated to streaming. And I've loved that that's like popped up because not only can like I stream to an audience of like, you know, a couple thousand people, but also I can just like scroll through and like see what people are doing. It's no substitute for shows, but it's kind of cool in its own way. I wouldn't be surprised if like it, you know, the participation goes down after Corona. A lot of people are just using it as a platform instead of doing shows, but it's also now I think a lot of people know that it's a thing and know how to use it. So like, I mean, why not do a stream here and there?
There's been books on Mona Lisa, Picasso and Van Gogh.
But I definitely don't think that they'll ever get rid of the virtual programming now. They've also talked about possibly down the line also having an app where people can like have a certain performer that they can just like request at any time. Like if you are in your house close by to your instrument of choice, if they like alert your app, then you can just like hop on and perform for them then. So I definitely think they're leaning towards doing a combo in the future.
My gut tells me that it can't stick around forever. We all want to play gigs. We all want to get out there. I think it has its place for me in the way that I don't have to lift any equipment. My piano sits there. I just go to the piano. I set up the cameras, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but like we figured it out. I think for people around my demographic who aren't like big arena musicians, people who are just doing regular gigs and stuff, that might stick around for a while because that is something unique and special where I know that we have friends very far away and family very far away. Like we live in Rhode Island. My wife's family lives in the Philadelphia area. So we rarely get to see them, you know, once or twice a year. And when we see them, we're not playing music for them. And they've become some of our biggest fans. Like her father chimes in all the time. He's a big Bruce Springsteen fan. He loves it when we do like New York State of Mind by Billy Joel. And he'll miss it if we take it away completely. And it would be I think it would be a loss for us too, you know.
I'm definitely going to keep it going. A lot of the folks, they wouldn't feel comfortable in the club. It's too many people. They're in the safe space of their home. As we move forward, there were going to be a mix of live and virtual because we have to now.